Nobody has made more waves in the name, image, likeness waters than Miami businessman John Ruiz.
He can spend his money wherever and however he wants to. He's not going to bulldoze a public high school. He's not going to build a stadium anywhere in the city of Coral Gables. Miami is a sunny place for shady people, and I resent when some of that shade overshadows the good that people are doing, a positive moment in the history of this community and this program.
A billionaire whose money may or may not be real, who is very interested in you knowing he has money and is looking to, buy the Marlins, buy the Dolphins, put stadiums on top of stadiums, and conquer all of South Florida.
But he's saying it. Certainly, you've heard of Nevin Shapiro. This is Nevin Payaso.
The Ruiz thing smells like Miami. And when something smells like Miami, I am left to distrust anything that smells a little too much like Miami, and we drape in some of that good Cuban cologne. Big booster man on money that may or may not be real, is real, kind of real.
It's definitely real.
Okay. The real money that's confusing to many people.
It was subject to all sorts of scrutiny, and it went public, guys. I don't
At a time when things being real in currency seems less real than it's ever been.
Obviously, the concern always has been for the last 2 years, that shady man with shady money pouring it into the University of Miami again was going to end the same way that always ends. And it looks, by all indications, like that's exactly what's going to happen. I was labeled a hater for just sort of saying, hey, look, the sky's blue, for stating what I thought was the obvious or abundantly clear, what is now proven to be a fact. UM booster, the former, I should say, University of Miami Hurricane sugar daddy, John Ruiz's company, once called MSP Recovery, then called Life Wallet, now called MSP Recovery again. Because a going concern keeps changing its name and rebranding, Roy. Well, the company has notified the SEC through public filings that it may only have 6 months left to live.
How about another rebrand then?
I don't know whether they should start a defibrillator company, maybe, Roy, to revive this dead brand. But what you just heard was a series of clips from this program dating back. The first one was from December of 2021.
Hell, Dan was on the show.
Back when I was 14 years old, Roy, okay? And we were the first people to put up the red flags when John Ruiz came out of nowhere, became at the time a self-proclaimed billionaire, and started writing checks upwards of $10 million for name, image, and likeness contracts with prominent University of Miami athletes. We're talking about contracts worth like $800,000 plus a car. We're talking about contracts, some of which kind of eventually got the school in some trouble, with the NCAA, of course, because if any school was going to be the first to get in trouble over NIL deals with the NCAA, it was going to be the University of Miami. And this guy was a classic Miami character. His company went public through what they call a SPAC, or Special Purpose Acquisition Company, which is...
That sounds offensive.
Well, but it's also... It is offensive, not for the reason you're suggesting, but it's a shell company formed solely for the purpose of raising capital through an IPO, a public offering, for the purpose of acquiring or merging with a previously existing company. If it sounds like some sort of a fast one, that's because it is. These were highly suspect vehicles. The SEC was already kind of like not looking kindly on them, but he managed to slip it in, and it became one of the biggest SPACs of all time. The company valuation was like $32 billion. So on paper, this guy was worth $20 billion because he owned 65% of the company, which basically resulted in a day one collapse, by the way, of the stock. Day one collapse. And this year alone...
No terrorists were involved, by the way.
Over the past year alone, the stock is down, I think, 93%. Okay? So I don't know how long this guy was a billionaire on paper for. I'm not sure how many minutes or how many hours he was a billionaire on paper for. I do know that he made a lot of money from this scheme. And I was concerned and expressed my concern in real time, as did young Dan. Okay?
No gray in his beard.
Dan looked like he was fresh from his quinceañera, and I looked fresh from my bar mitzvah in those early because Porque Miami clips. But the bottom line is we were flagging this because we were concerned about this character, the health of and legitimacy of his company, and and where this money was coming from, and that University of Miami athletes were going to get in trouble as they are wont to do, not through their own wrongdoing, but through the wrongdoing of predatory boosters, donors to the school. And this NIL thing has been a wild, wild west situation, thanks to the failures of the NCAA to come up with any sort of fucking like global rules for them, and just let every individual state just kind of make shit up as they went along. And it's a disaster because of that. And it's entirely the NCAA's fault. But UM athletes are always going to be the first guys to get in trouble. So we were concerned about that. We expressed that concern, and it turns out we were right to do it. This guy who claimed to have...
We have biometric technology.
Nobody's quite sure if this guy might very well be the Wizard of Oz. Ari Cohn, was that defamatory, what I just said?
He's the man behind the curtain.
Ari Cohn is a First Amendment lawyer. He's the lead counsel for tech policy at the thefire.org, which is the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression. He had some Twitter beef, some tweef with John Ruiz last year. We had him on the show with some of his mean tweets that resulted in a 100-plus page bar complaint against him in Illinois that was dismissed so quickly, I don't even know that they could have read it because it was so fucking ludicrous, this document. But speaking of ludicrous, John Ruiz has just put out a press release that he has filed a lawsuit for defamation against the Miami Herald for pulling a journalism on him. This is in John Ruiz's own words. He has filed a defamation lawsuit on behalf of MSP Recovery founder and CEO John H. Ruiz against Miami Herald, McClatchy Company, the company that owns the Herald, and reporters Jay Weaver and Ben Wider for false, misleading, and defamatory reporting that resulted in more than $5 billion in losses. I should have said $5 billion in the Dr. Evil voice, because that's as preposterous as that is. $5 billion. So, Ari... let's start with what I said. If I said he might be the Wizard of Oz, is that defamatory?
I mean, that's rhetorical hyperbole and opinion, so no.
I don't even know that it's hyperbolic, but okay, let's
overruled.
Let's say Roy, right here, Roy.
No,
Court.
that would be in the sustained for you. Overruled for John Ruiz.
So where do we begin? Where do we begin? Because you wrote a sensational blog post about this lawsuit last week where you read the whole damn thing, which was hard to read because it was written in crayon. It is one of the whiniest, bitchiest, most butthurt complaints I've ever read. Light on facts, full of feeling though, and emotion, and irrelevant biographical details. I'm not entirely sure the lawyers who signed it wrote it, because it reads like an autobiography. It reads like a John Ruiz, flagellating special. Like, where do we begin with this? What I presume is a $5 billion lawsuit against the Miami Herald for defaming John H. Ruiz.
I mean, it's not just that it reads like an autobiography. It's that on the docket, at least as of, I think, like last weekend, I don't know if this has changed, but there was no lawyer for John Ruiz listed on the docket other than John Ruiz. So he would have filed it by himself. It looks like.
But it also said that he filed it on behalf of MSP Recovery. Or I'm very confused.
Well, so it says MSP Recovery filed on behalf of him, which could make sense if they were maybe like listed as his attorney, but that would still be a weird way of saying it. But also, let's kind of just get to one of the big picture issues of why none of this makes any sense, is that one of the primary claims here, and we'll get to why it's bullshit in a second, but one of the claims is that the Miami Herald defamed MSP Recovery by saying it was the target of federal investigations. Now, if MSP Recovery is the party that was defamed, MSP Recovery has to be the party that sued. But the only named plaintiff is John Ruiz. So who is suing, what attorneys representing who for what, and who are the part? None of it makes any sense at all. MSP Recovery isn't listed as a party, so I don't know how MSP being defamed has anything to do with the price of tea in China.
Right. So what you're saying is even before you get into the claims in the complaint and the facts,
This is
it's like it's already fucked. It's like pre-fucked.
Yeah, these are mistakes that like somebody straight out of law school wouldn't have made. Like you have to have the proper parties. And it's beyond rookie mistake. It's just incomprehensible how somebody could make these mistakes.
So here's the other thing, though. So let's talk about, before we get into the Target thing, they have, I started to wade through some of the 99 pages of exhibits, which are filled with emails, but from their lawyers, with the Miami Herald and their attorneys, with the New York Post and their attorneys, all of whom, for the most part, stand by the journalism of the reporters. And one of the things I've noticed is that more often than not, in all of these stories, they are relying upon the company's own public filings, at least in advance of the article, or later those filings with the SEC corroborate the reporting done by these reporters, that there is a grand jury or multiple grand juries convened investigating the company, and the company is quote unquote cooperating with them, that there are questions about the legitimacy of some of the claims of the company. The fact that the company, in addition to projecting nearly $1 billion in revenue on year one, about $993 million they projected, they generated about $23 million and change, and that was against an over $100 million operating loss. So, and at the time that they had a $33 billion or $32 billion evaluation on the launch of their IPO, there also wasn't any revenue. There was almost zero revenue, and yet they were claiming the company was worth $32 billion. So there's a lot of questions here that their own filings, the company's own public filings raised, not to mention that after their first year of filings, most of which were filed late, they made this wild, they filed this wild document with the SEC saying all of our previous filings, or most of our previous filings, were unreliable. You cannot trust any of the financial information that we ourselves have self-reported. Like, so what I'm saying is, like, how can you even defame this company when all you have to do is copy and paste their own reports, which it appears to me that's all the Herald did.
Yeah, well, there is such a thing as the defamation-proof plaintiff, where their reputation is so shot already that nothing you say could possibly lower their esteem in the eyes of the community anymore. It takes a lot to get there. I don't know necessarily if they're there yet, but yikes, might be getting close.
But I'm just saying, like, did it read to you? Because in this complaint, John Ruiz and his attorneys, whoever wrote this ridiculous amateur hour document that I should have printed out on toilet paper, so at least it would have some use to somebody for something. But
it will clog your pipes.
Probably would. Reading this, though, they take a lot of, or several, more than several, of the Herald articles out of context. They don't include full quotes from some of their expert sources that they quote. They don't even really seem to understand what defamation means, let alone can't so. And again, they seem more often than not to rely on the company's own statements. So what is going on here?
I mean, what's going on is obviously that John Ruiz doesn't like when people criticize his company, and he seems to think that his word should be taken as gospel, and anyone who doesn't credit his word should, I guess, have to pay him $5 billion. I don't know. Even when his word appears to be worth very little, all things considered, over the course of his history. It's quite bizarre. It's a strange lawsuit. It doesn't really make any sense.
Is any of it defamation?
It reads to me as desperate, honestly.
Does any of it rise to well, not just simply rise to defamation, but like, is their understanding of the law even consistent with what defamation could be under these circumstances?
I mean, well, he gives the wrong definition for defamation at one point in the claim, so that's not really promising. I assume that maybe he has a vague general idea of what defamation is. I have zero belief, however, that he actually knows the ins and outs of defamation law and how one pleads it and proves it. I had my suspicions of that a year or whatever ago, where he started threatening to sue people for defamation on Twitter and then got mad at me for telling him that he couldn't do that because it wasn't going to stick. And now that this has been filed, I am just absolutely certain that he has no fucking idea what he's talking about.
Shouldn't he have, like, legal counsel to advise him not to do something stupid like this?
You think John Ruiz needs anyone telling him what he does and doesn't know? John Ruiz, discount Donald Trump. He's the greatest you've ever seen. Everything he says
he's
is
Dan
golden.
Trump. Yeah.
You have to remember, this is a guy who self-produced and posted to his own YouTube account a documentary short called John Ruiz Living Legend.
I'm so glad I wasn't aware of that until right now.
Well, I'm going to send you the link so you could watch it. And this is a man who told you right to your Twitter face, Ari, that he is a litigator of national magnitude. Did he not?
He did indeed. A litigator of national magnitude who can't figure out who the proper plaintiff is in a case, I suppose. It's not really, again, not really promising.
Okay. Let's talk about this word mincing here on Target. The Miami Herald made the outrageous and seemingly accurate statement that...
That's a fine.
Fuck.
That's
Sorry.
a fine. Pay that fine up.
5. God damn it. You take Venmo?
Yes.
What about Zelle? Can we talk about Zelle?
No, we take...
Wait.
Zelle is not a sponsor, but we do take Venmo.
Do you take Trump coin? Can I pay you in Trump coin?
That is worthless.
You take
so
Miami
no.
coin? It's not worthless. It can
has
buy
no
you
worth.
a whole government. All right.
Apparently it can,
So,
yes.
The Miami Herald made the outrageous and seemingly accurate observation that the MSP Recovery, Life Wallet, whatever it's called this week, was the target of multiple federal investigations. Again, as I've already said, they seem to have disclosed that in their own public documents, the company itself. But is that they seem to spend a lot of time saying that they are not, in fact, the target of anything, and it's defamatory to state or suggest that they are.
Yeah, it's really strange because they acknowledge that there are investigations and that they are the ones being investigated. They do not take any issue with that contention. What they seem to be claiming is that because the Department of Justice's Justice Manual, in the context of talking about the rights and policies and procedures when someone is called to testify in front of a grand jury, calls someone a target if there is substantial evidence linking them to the commission of a crime, that because the word target has this specialized use in this one particular case, that it's defamatory to say they are the target of an investigation. That's nonsense for a few reasons, not least of which is because nobody reading the Miami Herald reads the word target and thinks, oh, yeah, you mean the definition in the Justice Manual, which most people don't even know exists.
They have a manual?
Yeah. There's a manual for justice.
Manual.
They didn't get rid of it because of DEI?
Yeah. Emmanuel Justice sounds like an NBA player.
Yeah, it does.
There is Emmanuel of Justice, yes.
Anyone reading this statement in the Miami Herald would know immediately that the meaning is that MSP Recovery is the one being investigated. Like, that is very clear. It is unreasonable to claim that anyone would think otherwise. Like, it is just the worst kind of like trying to nitpick on formalistic legal technology. And for what it's worth, the courts don't hold journalists to the proper use of formal legal terminology, specifically because this could happen, because it would become very dangerous to report on legal proceedings because you say one thing and you take the normal meaning of it rather than the formal legal meaning of it, and somebody sues you for defamation. Like, it's literally, I mean, like you said, it's the whiniest thing I've ever seen.
So if they had just said,
stick.
Would they have just said like, oh, they are the subject of the investigation, or they are being
subject has a meaning in the Justice Manual too. But if the Miami Herald had said, MSP Recovery is being investigated, like they wouldn't have even had this whiny hook. Like, and that's clearly what targeted the investigation means in the common parlance. So like, it's just, I don't know why they think that a judge is going to look at this and do anything but say, why the fuck are you wasting my time?
Speaking of which, there's also a claim here, I believe, if I'm reading this correctly, and I don't know how to read this because I've read, quite a few defamation claims, and this is one of the worst I've ever seen. And just as far as sheer incompetence, legal incompetence is concerned. But the first 2 pages, almost 3 pages, Roy, is just every number. It's like 1, John Ruiz is a great man. 2, John Ruiz is a Cuban-American man. 3, John Ruiz is a litigator of national magnitude. I've never seen anything like. Have you ever seen it? Like, you can, one paragraph, Ari, you can establish someone's bona fides and say, this guy is a guy with a reputation, and go on to explain how you've defamed, right? Is there like 3 pages of this shit?
It's just like 2.5 pages of bullet points about the various people who have vetted MSP Recovery's like procedures and like algorithms, which has nothing to do with anything. It's very bizarre. It is exactly the kind of like self-aggrandizing nonsense that you would expect if John Ruiz had written the complaint, which he may well have.
And also, they claim that because the Herald had described another civil lawsuit against them, the Cano Health lawsuit, they're being sued for like $67 million. There was a claim that John Ruiz's company was quote unquote a Ponzi scheme in that complaint. They simply quoted this legal complaint, this civil case, and I think he says that's defamatory for publishing.
He implies it, but he doesn't make it into any of the counts for some reason. So I don't really know whether they forgot about it or I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, in any event, you are allowed to report on what a legal document or what is said during a legal proceeding, as long as you do it fairly and accurately. And if you're describing what Cano Health is claiming about MSP Recovery, like, yeah, you're going to repeat some of the things that John Ruiz thinks is false. But like you're allowed to report accurately on what the legal document contains. So he's shit out of luck there.
And finally, what are they?
It just seems like he thinks that nobody should be allowed to criticize John Ruiz, and if you do, then you have to print John Ruiz's side of things too. Otherwise, you defame. And by the way, in the article about the Cano Health lawsuit, the Miami Herald actually does tell MSP Recovery side of things and talks about the lawsuit that MSP Recovery filed against Cano. So it's like really, really whiny.
Last question. $5 billion. It doesn't appear he's suing for $5 billion. The press release headline says that. But what is he suing for? What remedy or punishment against the Herald does he want?
He definitely does want money, and I wouldn't be surprised to hear him say the $5 billion in the litigation, which like strikes to me as like source crack pipe meme territory. He also wants an injunction against the Miami Herald publishing anything about John Ruiz ever again.
What?
He wants them. Yes, he wants an injunction. He wants a prior restraint so the Miami Herald can never say anything about John Ruiz ever again, which is not only just deeply fucking stupid, it is also flagrantly, obviously unconstitutional. And it's absurd that the thought to actually ask for that would even cross his mind. It goes to show how deep up his own whatever his head is.
Culo. We call it a culo.
Kind of sounds like what the current president of the United States is doing.
Well, there are some similarities between their personality, and when I say that, I mean John Ruiz just really wishes he was Donald Trump and like tries to emulate him in every way. And like, say what you will about whether or not Donald Trump pulls it off, there's one thing that is certain: is John Ruiz does not pull it off.
Well, there's one reason why you don't fuck with John Ruiz.
We have biometric technology.
He has your fingerprints.
Ari Cohn, thanks so much for being here, thefire.org. And we had to revive this Streeter classic for this very occasion.
Anybody can read a lot into whatever you do. As long as you do it the right way, there's nothing wrong with it.
I'm super rich, so you can't be mean to me. In public or in private, but especially where people can see you're being mean to me. 'Cause that hurts my feelings. Cease and desist or something. still count it as a win for sure. 'Cause I don't really know love to John H. Ruiz. Being mean demands some legal recourse or a formal complaint. Never tell. I pay people to like me, so they let me play ball. My loyal army of burners avenge me. Whenever some fool tries to say something true about me on the internet that I didn't like, cease and desist or something. How imperfect and be threatening, as this amounts to nothing eventually, I'll still count it as a win for sure.
From a lawyer's perspective,
'Cause I don't really know love to John H. Ruiz. A retweet demands some legal action or a formal complaint. Make it rain on the case. The stadium is a pipe dream. I'll never build it at all. John Ruiz is a sleaze who's never read the Constitution.
we have biometric technology.
At the risk of circling back to the first segment, Roy, we were talking about John Ruiz, and we were talking about how we were right about everything. All the red flags we had attempted to fly.
I mean, don't pat yourself on the back too
all
hard
the
now.
concerns we. But this is a collective we. This is
I'm patting myself on the back
me
right
and Dan and really everybody except for John Ruiz's nephew, Mike Ryan Ruiz. And we were correct to be skeptical. We were. But that did not stop the sport holes on Twitter from going after me. And now we're going to take a look back in a top 5, Roy.
now. Oh, okay. Hold on.
It's a top 5. What do we call this top 5, though? So these are shit tweets at me, but they are, they were wrong, dude.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. They were wrong. So, and we tried to, and this was all in the interest of protecting student athletes at the University of Miami, the reputation of the Miami Hurricanes athletic department, and for all the reasons that I think have become abundantly clear through the years. But let's start with our OLI from @DanielKane1970 with the avatar of "It's All About the You," just like steer right into the sports hole thing. I appreciate this one. This is very nice. I respect both Izzy Havanick and Billy Corben, and I like them both. But on this one, they have no idea what they're talking about, and it's not wise to challenge John Ruiz because he's one and he's an attorney by trade. I appreciate that, Danny boy. I know Izzy does too. Izzy Havanick is a he's not just a golden cane, Roy.
Oh.
He is not just a golden cane. His family is on the board of trustees at the University of Miami. Their family name is on the athletic department and on a residential hall there. And he was our guest on the show some time ago to talk about how dubious this situation was.
So he's a platinum cane.
He is a platinum, absolutely. And I appreciate Danny Boy Kane chiming in, and I respect him. I think the problem here is that the idea that John Ruiz is an attorney and he should be deferred to because of his legal expertise did not age well.
Well, he doesn't know the Constitution, so
as the song, just like in the song,
demands a legal recourse.
Number 5 from @GoCanesGarrigo. At Billy Corben and Izzy Havanick need to shut their mouths. Why are you fighting against progress? Go Canes.
There are hashtags there. You got to read the hashtag.
Hashtag the time is now. Hashtag don't be a fan later. At Alex7 Ruiz, John Ruiz's son. At John H. Ruiz. At Johnny Ruiz for also John Ruiz. I have to read all of it?
Yes.
Oh, Jesus.
You can't leave anything out, man. Audio.
Obviously, telling us to shut our mouths when we were telling the truth is pretty funny. And the idea that we were fighting against progress, that was the opposite, of course, of what we were fighting against. But we can agree on that last bit. Go Canes.
Go Canes. Go Canes. Don't be a fan later.
Hashtag. Don't be hashtag the time is now. Number 4, at sportsbet expert, at SBet team. Shut up, Billy.
Oh, Jesus.
Shut up, Billy. My lord. Trying to get clicks from this and calling Ruiz a Miami Hurricane sugar daddy? He loves the Canes. Who cares? He's doing way more good than you are. All right. Let's set the grammar aside for a moment.
And the punctuation.
He was the Miami Hurricane sugar daddy. I don't think that's an insult. I think that was, in fact, a compliment. I don't know what kind of clicks I'm getting. I believe that John Ruiz loves the Canes. I do. But I also believe that, being involved with characters like him could be potentially harmful to the program. And as it turns out, I believe it was. When he says, who cares? I care. I care about the student athletes, and I care about the health and safety of the program and its reputation and its ability to succeed. And he's doing way more good than you are. I mean,
you're a cane baiter. Kind of like
we have biometric technology.
Kind of like people are saying, "Oh, I'm a race baiter." Me being a race baiter, because I'm calling out racism on Twitter, currently known as X. You are a cane baiter.
I am a baiter, and I'm the master at it. I would be the master baiter, I think. I'm waiting for the sound. I'm waiting for the audio.
It's on the page that I have to find right now.
Oh,
hold on for a second, and I think I got it. There you go.
Number 3. At Kane 305786. I love that handle, by the way. I love that handle. Props to that handle. Should be number 1 just for that handle. At 305786. At Kane 305786. Exactly, Ellipses. Comparing at John H. Ruiz to Nevin Shapiro is not only insulting, but ignorant. I'm actually not going to defend that point because that was Dan who did that. So fuck him.
Yeah.
I mean, Dan's the one that made that comparison. I think more so than I did.
Nothing to do with it.
But it was neither insulting nor ignorant. If anything, it was insulting to Nevin Shapiro. Number 2, at this name, I love it. At Turnover Chain.
Turnover with an A.
Turnover with an A. Turnover
A hard
chain. The hard A. Oh, I love this town. He tweets at me, please respond to at John H. Ruiz. I know you are scared of him since you got yet another prediction wrong. This is your legacy.
What was the original statement that you had to respond to?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because you were right.
We're always We played a whole bunch of highlights at the top of the hour, dude. I mean, we were right. What was I wrong about? Just tell me what was I wrong. By the way, Miami, it's a town. I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. Miami is a place where lies are love and truth is hate. Okay? People don't want to hear the truth. It's a potalita kind of town. Okay?
It's a nationwide epidemic now.
It's like Tinkerbell. If you don't believe in it, it doesn't exist. So you gotta just keep believing in it. Okay? Number 1. At you step 2 step 21. I love this.
You tap to step.
I'm sorry.
Like University of Texas, El Paso.
At you tap to step 21. John, I'm looking forward to your boxing match against Billy when you open up that new Kane Stadium. Yeah, I'm waiting for that boxing match, too, when he opens up the new Kane Stadium, which I told you from day one, not only was never going to happen, but the Miami Hurricanes don't want it. The athletic department doesn't want it. The university doesn't want it. The the school board where he said he was going to knock down a high school and build it, and Coral Gables doesn't want it. The Miami-Dade County, which controls Tropical Park, where he claimed he was going to build his new location of the state. It's not going to happen. And I know telling the truth makes me a hater, but it's still the truth. And speaking of truth that hurts, this week, the City of Miami Commission postponed a vote on whether or not to deputize local cops with immigration enforcement powers. That's in the city of Miami, where over half the population is foreign-born and more than 70% are Latino or Hispanic. And they want to follow in the footsteps of at least half a dozen other Miami-Dade cities, Sweetwater, Coral Gables, West Miami, Sunny Isles Beach, Miami Springs, and Hialeah, where 93% of residents speak a language other than English, to enter into this 287G agreement, which is a task force model which would allow the Miami Police Department officers to conduct immigration functions, federal immigration functions, during routine work, like a traffic stop or whatever it may be. This is a big deal because Miami is the largest city in Miami-Dade County, the second most populous in Florida, and the Obama administration had eliminated these task forces back in 2012 after a Department of Justice investigation found it led to racial profiling and discrimination toward Latinos. President Donald Trump brought it back this year. So the Miami Commission did delay that vote, but they are planning on doing it later this summer. So we'll keep you posted on that progress.
You get what you vote for.
But I never thought the leopards would eat my face, Roy. But we are going to do for our Miami moment, a throwback to 25 years ago this week. After 4 months of protests that shut down the city, the Palmetto Expressway, our freeways, Biscayne Boulevard by the Immigration Building at 79th Street, the Port of Miami, countless family and federal court hearings, extensive due process, and meetings between Elian Gonzalez's Miami relatives and Attorney General Janet Reno, during which Elian's great-uncle Lazaro told Janet Reno, the Attorney General, that if she wants to comply with multiple judges that ordered Elian be returned to his closest living relative, his father, that she'd have to take him, quote, by force, end quote. And on April 22nd, 2000, 25 years ago this week, she did just that. And Little Havana erupted in violence.
And it's also the reason why George W. Bush got elected, according to you in your movie.
That is correct. This is all. It's a little bit of a spoiler. You're getting a little bit ahead of the punchline here, but yes, that is going to be our Miami.
Well, I didn't know it was going to be the punchline.
A clip from 537 votes, but Little Havana on what is sometimes known as Parental Rights Week here in Miami. Little Havana erupted in violence against federal agents. There were rioters setting fires on the streets of Miami, burning American flags. And then Miami Mayor Joe Carollo. He was the mayor 25 years ago. Unbelievable. He's like a cockroach, this guy. He's got more lives than Fidel Castro. So Joe was right out there in front of the cameras, and you're not going to want to miss him getting bitch slapped by fake Bill Clinton on Saturday Night Live. And I should say, after the raid, Carollo fired the police chief and the city manager, the last two gringos in city leadership at the time, for not giving him advance notice of this INS enforcement effort. But it was later reported that the feds did not trust Carollo, so they demanded that he not be told. So here is a remixed clip from our HBO original documentary, 537 Votes, executive produced by Adam McKay, Cocaine's.
A defiant Lazaro Gonzalez made it clear he was not going to turn over Elian to his father.
His great-uncle Lazaro told Attorney General Janet Reno that the boy could be removed only by force. seriously hurt. But outside the house, for some of those who had been holding vigil day and night, the emotional wounds were deep.
Is that democracy? No, that's Castro Tactics. You turned Miami into Havana.
I would like to take a moment to talk to the exiled Cuban community in Miami who are so upset over the recent government action there and extend this heartfelt message to them. Shut the hell up.
It's supposed to be nonviolent. I just called the police 3 times.
I'm burning this flag, like Clinton did.
It was a circus.
I just saw you throw a rock.
No, good. Clinton is shit. Reno is motherfucker.
All right, Miss Reno, so you ready?
Ready.
Go blue!
Go blue.
That's it, let's move! Give us the chip back!
Hand over the children. I'll be easier. Hand over the children.
It was a very bad situation post-raid in the Cuban-American community. Emotions were inflamed. Mayor helped to inflame those emotions.
I could not find sufficient vocabulary to express the shame that I felt this morning towards our federal government.
And to the mayor of Miami, what's his name? You say you're ashamed of your new home, the United States? I'll tell you what, I'll buy the raft.